Available with V6 power and a long list of standard features, the Infiniti M30 was sold as a luxury coupe, eventually offering a convertible. Launched in 1989 for the 1990 model year, the M30 stuck around for 3 model years in the North American market. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Infiniti M30 as well as its background in the Japanese market. So grab a strawberry smoothie, kick back, and let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Infiniti was initially launched with just 2 cars, the Q45 and the M30. The Q45 served as the flagship model. The M30, for the time being, served as the entry model. It would retain this entry-level position until the arrival of the Nissan Primera-based G20. The M30, while new for North America, was actually the rebadged Japanese domestic market Nissan Leopard. Being a variant of the second-generation Nissan Leopard, which had been available for Japanese customers since the mid-1980s, the M30 was basically already several years old by the time it made its debut in North America. Since this car was already existing as a JDM Nissan vehicle, let's take a brief look at its background and give ourselves a very basic familiarization of it before it became the entry-level Infiniti model for the North American market. The first-generation Nissan Leopard made its debut in late 1980 and was aimed squarely at the mid-level spectrum of cars, such as the second-generation Toyota Chaser, which also made its debut in 1980. The Leopard's mission was to serve as a personal luxury car that also had an element of sportiness. The F30 was developed concurrently with the R30 Skyline, while also sharing a good portion of the Skyline's architecture. 1986. In February of this year, the second-generation Nissan Leopard entered production. Whereas the previous F30 offered a 2-door coupe and 4-door hardtop sedan, the new F31 was only available as a luxury GT coupe. The Toyota Soarer, an arch rival, was also redesigned in early 1986. The new Z20 Soarer was based on the A70 Super platform. As a quick side note, the following generation Toyota Soarer is what would become known as the North American Lexus SC. This time around, the Leopard was going up against other competitors, such as the Mazda Cosmo and the Honda Legend Coupe in 1986. In a typical 1980s JDM sport coupe fashion, the F31 sported a tech-laden suspension. The road-sensing, adjustable suspension, dubbed Supersonic Suspension System, utilized a total of 5 sonar sensors to scan the road surface under the car and automatically adapted the suspension. Nissan gave buyers a choice of either a turbo V6 or a naturally aspirated V6, displacing either 2 or 3 liters. Similar to the Skyline and Fairlady Z, the Leopard Coupe sported a front-engine rear-wheel drive layout. A 4-speed automatic with electronic overdrive was used in conjunction with a 5-speed manual, which was only available in JDM spec cars with lower trim levels. Speaking of the Skyline, the F31 shared a platform with the R31 Skyline. The Leopard got a refresh in mid-1988. Ultimately, it was this facelifted version that would make its way to the US. 1989. Nissan's Infiniti and Toyota's Lexus were launched this year after years of planning. Both brands debuted with well-thought-out flagship models. The Q45 for Infiniti, as mentioned earlier, and the LS400 for Lexus, both of which targeted the Mercedes S-Class. Both divisions were in need of a less expensive entry-level car. Lexus had a candidate, the Camry-based ES250 sedan. Infiniti had one too, the M30 Coupe. To mitigate costs and to expedite bringing both entry-level cars to market, both adopted existing JDM cars, the Toyota Camry Prominent and the Nissan Leopard. For the North American market, there was a single drivetrain option for the Infiniti M30. The 3-liter V6 made it to a 4-speed automatic. Whereas JDM Leopards were mostly equipped with dual overhead cam engines and offer a range of engine options, different displacements, and naturally aspirated and turbocharged engines, the M30 only came with a single overhead cam V6. Nissan's 3-liter V6 generated 162 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. The M30 retained Nissan sonar suspension, which adjusted shock stiffness depending on road conditions. This was accompanied with selectable comfort and sport modes. Items such as CD player and built-in phone were on the dealer-installed options list. While M30 coupes were the first to hit the market, a convertible would later augment the lineup. Each M30 convertible started out as an imported M30 coupe. During the time, ASC, or American Sunroof Company, located in California, took charge in converting the coupes to drop tops. As we're all aware, chopping a car's roof sacrifices structural integrity. To mitigate this, the car was given reinforcements to prevent chassis flex and to improve rigidity. Despite the convertible modifications gaining an extra 100 pounds over the standard coupe, performance wasn't hugely impacted. To be fair, between Acura and Lexus, its primary rivals, Infiniti was the first to bring a convertible to market. Acura and Lexus had no such contenders. All in all, the M30 did not make a huge impact in North America. The M30 convertible was available in 1991 and 1992, and although it did somewhat boost sales, it again did not make a huge impact. With all that being said, what was the reason for a general lack of consumer enthusiasm around the M30? Nissan didn't have a problem selling Maximas, which were also powered by the VG30E, offered more space, and were nicely equipped while costing several $1,000s less. Another reason could have been the styling. Although it was the early 90s, the M30 could not disguise its angular 80s styling. Some even mentioned it resembled lesser sedan offerings, such as the Stanza. With a tick over 160 horsepower, the car demonstrated lukewarm performance. Perhaps this was yet another factor. Salesmen at the time mentioned prospective customers wanted a bit more power in their upmarket coupes. During the time, the M30 convertible, for example, sported an MSRP of around $33,000, placing it in the price tag vicinity of the BMW 3 Series and the Porsche 944. The top-spec Nissan Leopard in the Japanese market featured a turbocharged engine with at least 250 horsepower on tap. Although the typical M30 buyer or even Q45 buyer had no idea what a Nissan Leopard even was, perhaps such power figures as that top-spec JDM model would have been a welcome addition to the North American market and thus cause more enthusiasm amongst buyers. 1992 would be the final model year for the M30. By this time, 1992, the traditional front-drive sporty hatchbacks and elegant four-door sedans offered by Acura and Lexus, although being entry models, had more of a broader buyer appeal. The M30 served as a placeholder model, a car to be sold alongside the Q45 until the G20 and the next generation Leopard arrived. The next generation JDM Y32 Leopard would make its debut in the North American market as the Infiniti J30. Let us know if you've owned or drove an Infiniti M30. I have not seen an M30 in person since the mid-2000s. However, when I was stationed in Japan serving in the military, I saw quite a few Leopards in relatively good condition. As expected, a lot more cars from this era are still being driven on Japanese roads. As always, thanks for coming out to the show, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until next time, this is your host Rob, and thanks for tuning in to Antique Tags.